Hello there. Good evening, everybody.
Hello.
How you all doing?
Good evening. You know, it's a pleasure to be back. It's great to see you. We are slightly late. 2 minutes.
By a few minutes.
2 minutes. But we try to maintain that, you know, professionally, we try to do the best we can, be there on time. So we do apologize for the time, but we had a few technical difficulties.
Yeah, but we hope you are well. Besides all that, we hope you are well. And obviously it's Monday. Did everybody enjoy yesterday's weather? It was really lovely.
It was wonderful. It was wonderful. So, you know, we had a few moments, and I hope we get a lot more.
Yeah, exactly.
Can I just say that, you know, it's nice to be here, but today we're not going to be somber, but we are going to be serious about what we're talking about. Now, we this month we've been doing finances, but the unusual finance that we never talk about, and it's a taboo subject. It's about what happens when we leave this earth and move on.
Yeah.
What do we do for our families and so on? So we have got here Mr. Anthony Lyken, who is of H.A. Lyken and Son, funeral directors. Now, you may think this is not exactly about finance, but it is, because we don't actually talk about it and the consequences of not putting something together. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce you to Mr. Anthony Lyken.
Lovely. Come on in, Anthony.
Hello.
Welcome to
you. Good afternoon.
Welcome. You know, it's one of those things that we don't talk about because we are very afraid. We kind of think that it's we're bringing bad luck to ourselves. But in essence, if we don't talk about it, we are bringing bad luck to ourselves.
Exactly. But it's a good thing that we've got a gentleman here that is going to speak us through and make us feel a little bit more at ease and perhaps teach us something that, you know, we didn't know that we could do. So it's a pleasure to have you, Anthony.
Thank you very much for having me on.
I love that American in the background.
The twang.
Yeah, the twang, yes. How long have you been here? Oh, better still, tell us about you.
Right. Well, I was born in Guyana. And,
okay.
Obviously, I lived in the United States for a number of years. And I moved here in 98 and then came back and stayed here permanently from 2001. So I've been here close to about 22 years now. Been around here. Yeah.
So darling?
Yeah, I've been here. Can you hear me well? Yeah, I've been here about 20
Yeah, just about years. Hear you. I'm sure if anybody can't hear you, they will let us know in the chat. But yeah, we can hear you. So you came over in 2000 and...
I came here in 98 and then I came back in 2001, the birth of my son, and then my other son was born, and then I decided to stay here. I've been around the funeral business for close to about a good 25, 26 years, working as a arranger and a broker, basically recommending people to various funeral companies when someone has passed away. And 3 years ago, I decided, was going into 4th year now, I decided to go out on my own and get involved because as a business, and more or less because of me being out there and seeing everything that is going on, I wanted to make something good even better.
Okay.
Understood.
Yes, of course.
Yeah. Now, in terms of your previous experience in work-wise, can you tell us anything about that? What were your other experiences in terms of work?
Well, I came from a military background. I left the military some 35 years ago. And I've been working within schools and stuff like that as mentor. I'm also a PTI instructor. So between working with young people, mentoring them, doing, PTI instructor, personal trainer. That's what I was doing. And like I said, I, was a broker, working with families, brokering and negotiating with funerals between myself and funeral companies, and decided to go out and launch it on my own. I work in a few schools in London as a mentor, which was
Okay.
pretty much successful. And then I decided, I will now start the funeral, working with families on a full-time basis. I
Okay.
see it more as a calling rather than a job.
Okay.
Um,
Right.
I hear that. Yeah.
Okay.
yeah.
So, the part that why I wanted to talk to you was to speak to you about the preparation and what you find have been the difficulties for the families. I mean, one of the issues is, automatically saying a situation where you're trying to raise funds to bury a member of the family.
Mm.
Yeah, so that is a difficulty within itself. But can you tell us what things are put in place that you can put in place to help people? Do you have anything that you can help people beforehand, before it gets too late?
Well, I think one of the things helps people, I think, is conversations.
Your
Oh, your
Having
volume's
your
gone.
volume has gone.
gone.
I think it might be where you are. You might not be able to get reception.
I'm on the Wi-Fi here.
Your volume is absolutely gone now.
Oh boy.
Yeah. So
Can you hear me?
Yes, sorry about this, everybody.
while
Can you hear
Anthony's
me?
trying to work out what's happening with the volume,
Yeah.
I would say that one of the things why I asked for this conversation to be had was that we're trying to make sure that people are actually planning for their. Oh, that sounded
Oh,
okay.
okay.
It
Yeah,
sounded.
we'll get Sir to
Yeah.
come back. Yeah. Yeah.
So we're trying to get people to actually look at planning for when the worst happens. And there are many members of our community who are not putting their best practice forward. I'm thinking about those who automatically, the moment that a member of the family pass away, it's a scramble.
Mm.
It's a scramble to raise cash and so on.
Are you back with us? Okay.
I think so. Can you hear me well now?
Yeah.
Oh, perfectly loud.
Loud and clear now.
Okay.
Loud and
I don't know.
clear.
I just touched the computer and it starts. That's how I didn't do anything.
Okay. I think somewhere along the speaker or the microphone,
Yeah.
there might be a misconnect, but
we have you, so that's good.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
can now
Okay.
have our conversation.
Yeah.
okay.
Right. So one of the things that we come into contact is with planning and relationship, because I think where you get some of the most problems is that if you have a family member who has gone AOL, or someone who's living by themselves and don't have a close relationship with families, and that person passed away, it's now the burden on family members to bury that person. Obviously, they did not put aside money and said, well, if John passed away, this money's to bury him. Everybody's getting on with their life. And then if John or Mary passed away and they have not put any provision in place, that burden now is on the family. Now that burden of finance is going to have to shift towards either crowdfunding or charitable organizations or the DP,
Yeah.
Department of Work and Pension, where people will
Right.
make application. But the Department of Work and Pension does not pay for the full funeral. They only pay a certain percentage. Maybe you get a 2%, 3%, or 5%, depending
Wow.
Oh, I
on
didn't know that.
who's looking after the case. So if your funeral
Yeah.
if a funeral cost is £6,000 or £7,000,
Yeah.
depending on what the family wants, because sometimes the family wants the best for the person, but
Yeah.
do they have the money to give them, the best? Sometimes you can have a simple funeral, which might cost around £2,000 to £3,000.
Yeah.
Still, that's a lot of money to put together within a certain time frame.
Mhm.
So therefore, they either go over to there's charitable organizations that can help. And again, there's the DPW, Departments of Work and Pension. But if the family member who is applying for the funeral, if the family member is the one who's applying for the funeral and is working, the DPW may not give that money because they will say, well, somebody
Okay.
has a job and they're responsible
Right.
for that. So it's a bit of a catch-22 when it comes to burying an individual. I think, you know, within the Afro-Caribbean culture and some of the African cultures, I think there is so much disparity within family. There's so much fragile breaking up within the family. And when death comes, it's like an additional burden.
Right.
Yeah.
Because if this one is not, I'll give you an example. Mom passed away. Brothers not talking to sisters. Sisters not talking to brothers. They're not talking to their fathers. And that's where the whole case is. So you now, as a funeral director, has to now go in and you have to be a counselor. You have to be an advisor. You know, trying to bring people together so that they can meet that
You can
objective
bury that person.
of giving that person a good send
Some
off.
dignity.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how do you go around about that? So before we get to what the solution might be, how do you then, with your service, split yourself into those particular areas just to try and, you know, we're talking about the worst case scenario here.
The worst case
How
scenario
do
is
you do
that you could get torn in between all the families, because you can have one family who's deciding, well, I'm going to go ahead and bury this person. And then you may have an ex-wife show up from someplace, or you may have an ex-husband show up from someplace. You may have a child who's like, no, this is not going to happen. So you as a funeral director cannot get caught up in that. You have to stay focused.
Right.
And lending your emotional support and showing your compassion and your empathy to everyone. But, you know, you have to now deal with the main person. But if the main person only have certain amounts of access, then it becomes difficult if somebody else have that access but don't want to give that access.
Right.
So, but you have to keep reminding them, look, the most important thing is that mom or dad has to be buried. We have to stay focused. So sometimes you have to try to bring the families together so that they can have a conversation as to how we move forward. Or sometimes you just have to leave it alone. Sometimes you can have a deceased for 3, 4, 5 months because there's no monies to bury them, or no one wants to take that responsibility, or people are not talking to each other. Stuff like that you have to deal with.
Okay. So on the flip side of that now, if you, I think my question is, if you have the situation where you arrive at that time, again, as you said, nobody is prepared, and we're not going to stick on the people that are not just prepared, but in this scenario, they're not prepared and they need to bury. What is the path then?
What path can you lay?
The part I will lead is to, like I said, advise the family, give them numbers for charitable organizations that they can call, advise them on crowdfunding, advise them on if there are friends and families who are willing to put together money. Most importantly, tailor a funeral, a bespoke funeral that is suitable in a budget way, so that it can be affordable. And sometimes you may have a family who says, oh, but we want a burial, but then you can't afford a burial. We may want a casket, but you can't afford a casket. Okay. So the best way I will sit down and show them, look, you can go down this route here. And if you go down this route, this is what's going to cost you. It's much cheaper. The person still get their dignity. You still get to spend them. It's may not what you want, but it's what needs to be done.
Is what right.
Okay.
So now you become that advisor of showing the families in a respectful manner what they can do in order to achieve that goal of laying that person to rest. It might be well, only 2 ways we can go. We can go cremation or we can go burial. Cremation is a much reasonable way out. It's much more cheaper. Sometimes you may say, oh, well, we might need 2 family cars, but then you cannot afford 2 family cars. You may just need 1 family car, or maybe everybody has to ride in their own car, and there will be the hearse will then leads to the place. So normally, when someone called me and to tell me that someone has transitioned, I make an appointment to go and see them at home. rather than them
Okay.
coming into an office where you only have just a window of time to talk to them.
Mm.
If I can come home, sit with you in the living room, and we can have a conversation, the initial
Yeah.
conversation. Therefore, you can take an hour, you can take 2 hours, so that it's not something to rush. Especially
Okay.
if there's difficulties in planning if it's not
Okay.
straightforward. A straightforward case is where you go, all the families are there, they're happy to see you, they connect with you, and they know exactly what they want, and that's
Mm.
pretty much
Yeah.
straightforward. I do everything from start
Yeah.
to finish. The
Yeah.
family don't have to keep running to an office, they don't have to keep running to a shop.
Yeah.
I bring all the information to your home,
Okay.
and
Okay. Right.
we plan the funeral in a bespoke way.
Right.
Right.
So can I ask
Uh,
a question? If you have everything, okay, so you're not struggling, everything is there, the money's there to bury and so on, but you just don't know what the process is. So somebody finds you and they don't know what to do. They know they've got to bury, whoever it is, but they just don't know what the process is or where to start first.
That's
Can
my
you
job.
do you assist in that? Yeah.
Of course,
Yeah.
because I sit down with you. That's why I said I come to the home and I sit with you
Yeah.
and have that conversation. I
Right.
inform you what you need to do. If the deceased is at the coroner's, that you may have to wait 2 or 3 weeks, I will tell you step by step what needs to be done. I will be in touch with the family every day, knowing what progress they have made, what steps they've made. So
Yeah.
basically, on my brochures that I send out to people, it just have a list of things as to when a person transition, what you need to do until when you're ready to lay that person to rest.
Okay.
Right?
Right.
So, and I sit down and I go over all of that with you detail by detail so that you can have an understanding. Because sometimes what happens is that people I may go to a home, may sit down and talk with the family, but then someone may come out of the woodwork, might be a friend or another family member who buried someone in the past. And what can happen when you're in grief, a lot of conflicting information can be coming your way.
Right. Yes. Yeah.
So I always said to families, get a notepad and a pad, put funeral celebration of life on it. I said, and write down everything, every question that you need to ask me.
Mhm.
So when I speak to you, because you cannot remember everything,
Yeah.
especially
Yeah.
if it's not planned, especially if
Yeah.
there's issues around there, write
Right.
everything. So when I come to sit down and talk with you, I can answer your questions. If I don't have the answers, then I will sort my advisors out and they will tell me and I will come back to you.
Okay.
Okay. That's
Right.
good
So
advice. Yeah. Thank
can
you.
I ask you then, in that case, I'm thinking about the financial aspects of things. Do you have a situation where someone can pay, over a period of time, pay to prepare for the funeral, for transition, as in pay a monthly fee until they get to a point to pay for their funeral? Do you have something like that, or can you advise people
I can
where to
advise on that.
start?
Yeah, I can advise on that, which will, there's various insurance plans out there that are doing what
Right.
is funeral arrangement plans.
Yeah.
Okay.
When you go with it, going with an insurance company is better than going with a funeral home. The reason
Okay.
being that you are not stuck into that funeral home. You're not, for instance, you may take out a funeral plan with co-op, but you don't want co-op to do your burial.
Yeah.
Sometimes
Okay.
they will tell you, well, you have to do it here because that's where the family, but you don't have to. You should be able to have choices of where you want to go. So it's best
Okay.
to have an independent insurance company where you take out a plan saying this is for, in case, when I transition, you have a beneficiaries. Always good to put an executor or a beneficiary in place so that
Okay.
anything happens to you, that person knows, well, here I can go, I can find this, and this is what this person has put together for their funeral. Then you will get the necessary identifications and stuff like that when that time comes. Right.
Okay. See,
Nothing.
now that's
Yeah.
great to hear.
Yeah.
That's
There's a lot of independent funeral homes on the high street. Even if you go to them, one of the questions you have to ask them, if anything happens to me, can my family use another funeral company? Can they use another funeral director?
Okay.
You want to keep that option open in your funeral plan, right? Because
Right.
sometimes your family may not want to use co-op. right? They may hear bad things about Co-op, but they may not want to use Albans, or they may not want to use the company that you took it out with.
Yeah.
But you should not be stuck with that company. You should be able to say, okay, I can take the money from here, the buyout, and I can use another funeral company.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
That's
whatever
good.
is paid, and families must remember, if you pay for £5,000 for the funeral, that is the £5,000 that will be available for that funeral. Anything extra that they want, they have to pay for it.
Right.
Okay.
Sometimes
Okay.
some people feel that when they pay £5,000 for a funeral and they go to the funeral home, well, I can order 5 cars, I can order this, I can order that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
the bill comes up to
It's the extra.
15,000,
It's
and then
extra.
yeah. Or
Yeah.
you've got to be careful where you look on the websites and you see these funeral companies advertising, oh, we start from 600, oh, we start from this. What are you getting for that £600? Because when you get there and you look at the 600, oh, I get a basic this, a basic that. But then you may say, no, I want to give my mom and my dad something better than that. You will have to pay for it.
Yeah.
So it's
Okay.
always important.
Yeah, I hear that. That's really good advice, and didn't know that. So, what would you say is that people should look for or ask if they're looking for a really good funeral director like yourself? They want to come to you.
So when we come to
When
you,
we come to
inevitably,
you,
what are the first few questions that we need
yeah,
to be
ask you.
assured
Yeah.
of?
Mm.
Yeah.
I think every family is different. For me to say, put down like one particular question or something, every family is different. And I think what happens is that, okay, I'll give you an example. I asked a woman the other day, and I did a funeral for her husband, and I asked her, I said, so when I came to your house for the very first time, did you had any doubts? Here you have a guy come from nowhere, you don't know it, you just got a good recommendation about him. She said, well, when I looked down on your shoes and I saw how you dress, I realized that you're the one who got called to do my husband's funeral because he dresses and looks just like you.
Okay,
There
right.
you go, you see.
Freeze on that just for a minute. Have you got a picture to show?
He's very smartly turned out.
Sorry about this attire today. Just
No,
but,
don't worry about that. When you're in business, you're in business representing.
Right.
So I think
I have to see what one is up.
oh, that's
Oh,
a one.
no.
Yeah, I didn't look like that.
No. Stop. May I?
Yeah.
So, peeps, let's continue anyway. But the important thing is that when this gentleman comes to your aid, he comes correct, and there's no two ways about it.
We'll share that at the end.
We'll find the pictures as we go.
I think it's important because for me, looking after a deceased is just like if they were alive. They just can't talk to you. And I think you want to give them the best. I think you want to look after them properly. I think it's important. There's some funeral directors who have not even seen a deceased, but they run a funeral company. I think it's important that you are there from start to finish. The collection, you get to see the person, you know whether the person is fit to be embalmed, to preserve them for a long period of time. I just had sent a body to Sierra Leone. The family sent me loads of pictures how good mom is looking. Obviously, she leave a cold country into a hot country, so we have to make sure you have the right type of embalming done for that hot country. And I have one of the best embalmers in the country. She knows exactly what to do when it comes to preserving bodies. So I have sent bodies overseas, and there have been a lot of compliments. How the deceased look, beautiful, fresh. I think it's important as funeral directors that we look after people's family, not throw their bodies on floors like you hear bodies are lying on floors and that kind of stuff. There are lots of that is going on.
There's a level of respect.
So
there's lots of that. There's lots of that is going on today, where where there's
that's terrible though to hear.
And the conversation is that they're done dead already. No. Even though they're dead, they still have to have that dignity. And that's the reason why we said, I said, I put compassion and purpose over profit. There's lots of funeral companies out there that focus on profit rather than compassion, because as far as they're concerned, it's just a dead person, and that's the end of it. For me, it's not the end of it.
Repatriation.
One of the things, although that being said, one of the things, the key elements of your business has been the recommendations. And when I said that we were going to put some of your, we're going to interview you, a lot of people sent me texts on my phone to say that you were the person that, had buried their parents, and the surgery that you gave was so wonderful that they're still talking about it today. So thank you very much, because one of the things we want to say was, when you're representing, you do it so well, and the different aspects of the vehicles that you use, it's wonderful to actually see that you've actually got so many things happening at the same time, so many different ways to send people on their way, and that is wonderful. So
in regards to the repatriation, how if somebody said this is what they want to do or would like to do, what is the process for that? Because I think that takes a lot longer, doesn't it? Weeks or months, even in some cases.
Well, first of all, you have to make sure that you get the permission from the government to take the body overseas, and then then if the family has a funeral home in that country, my job is to connect with that person, that funeral home in that country, every step of the way, via emails or via WhatsApp. We talk while we're getting the body prepared here. I have to make sure that the deceased has. I speak with my embalmer, understand the science of preserving the body for a long period of time, making sure that everything is okay. I feed that back to the family. What are the possibilities? And advise the families the best, whether, there's different types of, there's two types. There are coffins and caskets. I often advise the families to purchase a casket, which is an air seal tight casket, rather than the body going in a zinc lined coffin, meaning a coffin with a zinc inside of it. When the coffin goes over there, they still has to open it, and sometimes it has to be destroyed, and the person then have to go into a casket. So I said, look, if you're going to do this, first of all, we look at the budget. We look at what kind of money you have to spend, and I give you a sort of a ballpark figure as to what you're going to spend, so you could make a decision whether you're going to use a repatriation or you're going to do something local. Right. So these are all the things we do have in initial conversations. That's the reason why I like to go sit down with the family and talk with them, so I can get an overall picture of what they have, what they want to do. So we can have that, we can have that rapport. And most of the times when I do that, the family is not just a client; they're a family. So we become a family. We
exactly,
So they can call me anytime. I can call them anytime, and we talk until the goal is achieved. So the repatriation has different strands, a different process that needs to take place. So I take the family through it from the inception, so they know exactly what is going to happen, what is going to be done, and so every detail has to be met. I'm very fussy, so every detail has to be met.
Well, we can show that picture now to people. So let me just share one. So when we're talking about how well Anthony looks, and obviously if a person can pay attention to their their dress, then
it actually makes people feel more comfortable, and one of the things I want to speak to you about, Anthony, was you said that recently you had some problems with your website and so on, and that you're updating at the present moment. So can you tell people how to get in touch with you and so on?
Well, they can get in touch with me via my email, which is inquiries@halyking.org. That's inquiries with 2 I's. Or they can, call our 24 hours number, which is 0207-126-7025. That's 0207-126-7025. Or they can call my cell phone, which is 07-581-583-589.
Once we've got that down the bottom there, and we'll share that again.
Once they get in contact, I will send them all my details, and we can have a conversation. If people are interested in taking out funeral plans, I can point them in the right direction. If they're interested in doing things like wills or stuff like that, I can advise them into that area and point them in the right direction. If people are looking interested in looking into other independents, funeral directors, I can still advise them. That's not a problem because people has a choice.
Yeah.
I'd rather they use me by choice rather than by force, because
Naturally,
it's important
yeah.
that it's important that we have that sort of family that family
Yeah,
kinship.
the connection there.
It doesn't matter whether
Yeah.
they're white, black, Chinese, Indian.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter who you are. I am ready to serve. And like I said,
Okay.
this is a
So
calling.
may I ask
Yeah.
you then, and this is the nitty gritty, on average, what is the price of a funeral, right? We're talking about the earth and also the cremation. So what's the difference in the price range so that people can get some idea? Remember, the price that the price that's being quoted really only works for you on the basis of this is the basic. Whatever you want tailored, that'll have a different price on top. Yeah.
Well, first of all, a simple funeral can start from £999. That is the professional cost. Then you have the crematorium cost, which can be sometimes between £7 to £1,000, and then
Yeah.
obviously you have the hearse, and sometimes there's no family members to be bearers, so you have to have bearers there. So you can look at a simple funeral from £2,500, going up to a traditional funerals where you're talking about a burial.
Yeah.
Depends on the cemetery. You have things like reclaimed graves that has been sold at Croydon, graves that has been used 100 years and it's no longer in use. That stays around 4,000 and change.
Mhm.
People must remember that if the person is not a resident of the area that you want to bury them, then you have to pay a non-residence fee. For instance, Lambeth, if you are not a
Oh.
resident of Lambeth, you can be paying up to £5,000 to £6,000 for a grave for
Huh?
two, right? If you are a
But
resident,
if you want them, if you're in a different borough and you
yeah,
want them buried in that's the price.
yeah. If you want them buried in another borough, it's important to find out that you will have to pay a non-residence fee. If
Right.
you are a resident of that borough, then you pay the residence cost. So different boroughs have different prices, right?
Understood.
You have
Didn't know
some,
that.
I'm going to
right?
interrupt there for a second just to say anybody coming in and listening now, we are not trying to be morbid. We're continuing the series of finance and how to manage your legacy and so forth.
To ensure
I
that
think
what you
sometimes in people's head, people think that because you get all these advertisement that talks about simple funerals,
Yeah.
cheap funerals, and then they say, oh well, we want to bury dad or we want to bury mom, and then okay, what is the burial cost? Another important thing that people don't understand: not all cemeteries are taking caskets, American caskets, right? Because it's not
okay.
biodegradable. But
Okay.
however, cemeteries that do take caskets, there is a casket fee. So even the burial fee that you pay, you have to pay a fee for the casket.
Because it's not
It's,
biodegradable.
That's
So
right.
basically it'll be
So
there for
so if
100
you
years and more.
right, so if you spend £5,000 for the plot, you still have to spend maybe half of a grand, maybe close to £500 as the casket fees. So you got the digging fees, right? You got the burial for the hole. You got to pay for the hole,
yeah.
and you have to pay for the casket. If it's a coffin,
Yes.
yeah. And if
And the diggers and
there's
so
some
on.
cemeteries that if there's a casket already there and there's a plot for two, if it's a coffin in there, they may not take a casket because they wouldn't want to put a
Yeah.
casket on top of a coffin. So those are things that family needs to understand from the get-go, right? Based on what they want, I listen to what they want, and then I said, okay, if this is what you want, this is what you can get because of where you're looking at. So if you want Croydon, a burial in Croydon, the person is a resident of Croydon, you want a casket, this is all the things that you need to look out for.
Right.
Okay.
If you're
Wow.
going to Lambeth, Lambeth is not taking caskets. Depends. Lambeth has 3 different cemeteries. They're not taking caskets in there. You have to have a coffin. Then you can have a coffin with a casket shape. You can
You
have
can
a
get
coffin. You can have a coffin in a casket
Okay.
shape. Meaning it is custom
Rectangular.
made. Yeah, rectangle. It's custom made. It's not going to be the same like the American casket, but if it gives you that sort of comfort that
And is that so? Listen, I know that there is fashion going on with burials right now.
Mm.
Okay, I only know this because a member of where I work a few years back had a coffin that had, I don't know, it had flowers on it. The coffin was white with flowers imprinted on it and so on. Are there different kind of trends or
Specialisms.
specialist coffins
Yes,
people are asking
there's a
for?
company called Colorful Coffin. I use them, and they can design anything you want. I've
Oh, I
just had a
see.
beautiful casket designed for a woman with a crown on it and the mom name in it. You can design. They can do it in any colors you want to do it. They
Yeah.
can wrap. Yeah. So there's yeah, but it costs. It costs, and
Okay.
yeah,
Well,
it costs.
everybody has to be aware that, you know, the more style and the what you want, there's going to be inevitably there's going to be a cost to it.
Yeah.
So be
I mean,
aware of
look,
that.
if you have the money, and you want to spend it, it's your choice. I don't
Yes.
begrudge anyone if they want to spend the money. I give them my advice. I give them, but my advice is my advice, but it's up to you. It's your choice. I let you know what they have. If you want a white hearse, you get a white hearse. If you want a silver hearse, you get a silver hearse. If you want a black hearse, if you want a Jaguar, you want a Merc, or you want a Daimler Chrysler,
Okay.
I just put it out there. You have the
Right.
choice as to what you want. I let you know what the cost is.
Okay. Do you have if someone wanted horse-drawn carriage, you know, with the glass and everything else, would you be able to facilitate that for
Of
them?
course,
'Cause I know
I just did one just an hour before I spoke to you. I just ordered
Oh,
have
okay.
my guys with two white horses, and you have the different color plumes. I did one the other day. They wanted red plumes, or you can get pink plumes, you can get blue plumes.
Okay.
I'll let you know everything that is available,
Yeah.
and then you make the choice of what you want according to your
Okay.
budget, according to your finances.
Right. Can I bring it back a bit now? Because obviously people are listening in. And by the way, anyone that's listening in and you find the conversation is very, very interesting to you and you have a question, do put it in the chat. Okay. And obviously Anthony will try and answer as best as he can. But so people can get to know you and your business, Anthony. What where did you get your training from and what drew you to this profession?
Growing up in Guyana, a distance family member, they run one of the largest funeral homes in Guyana. It was always intriguing. And I think when I went to New York, I remember being at a funeral of a very dear friend's father, and there were over about 1,000 people there, and it was chaos. And with my military background, I stepped in and I put order in the whole place. And everybody was actually amazed how the filing past the casket, everybody was in order. I got everybody to do everything that I asked them to do. One of the guys came to me and said, "Why don't you just get involved? Why don't you?" I said, "I've been thinking about it. I think for me, I can come home and rest well at night knowing that the family, I've done everything possible to make things very, I wouldn't say easy,
right.
but make the family feel comfortable. They know that, what, dad, mom, cousin, auntie, whatever,
Yeah.
is in good hands.
Okay.
And I know that they'll be looked after, or they have been looked after. Some of the referrals, the recommendations, testimonials I sent to you, it was an example
Yes.
that I don't want to.
Yeah.
This
And
is
ladies and gentlemen,
Yeah.
there are many wonderful
Very many.
testimonials that,
Even
it would
from
take-
one of our sponsors.
he's one of our sponsors, and he's spoken highly of the service that you provided for him. So, that in itself proves how well you are doing and how, we need to call your name when talking about the next step in, what happens in the life and the life process, shall we say. It's very important that we also understand that you've done this and you've stated it before. It's not about the profit. A lot of people talk about profit when they're doing in business, and you've actually held that to a next point where you're actually saying to people, come in, let's talk, let's find a solution. And I commend you for that.
I think it's important. I mean, we all going to walk down this road one day. Life is precious, regardless of what the situation was when that person was alive. And I think that when losing someone, that person, there's no dress rehearsal. That person is never going to come back. And I think it's important that when the family grieve, we grieve too. We try to identify with the pain. We can never understand the pain, but we can identify with the pain because we know it's a pain. We know there's hurt there. We know there's, people grieve in different ways. People grieve because of guilt. People grieve because they miss that person. People
Yeah.
grieve because there's a lot of anger there. And it's important as a funeral director that you create that sort of synergy with the families so that you will know, what to say or how to
Yeah.
address in the time. And listen,
I would
regardless of what,
agree with you.
sometimes some people are so angry. It irritates you, but you have to understand. You have to step back and say, you know what? I understand why you're behaving like this. I understand.
Yeah.
And it's not easy for you. And sometimes we got to take that on the chest, take that on the chin, and understand. Try to put our foot in their shoes. If it was me, how would have I handled that matter? Rather than dismissing them, or rather just saying, well, they done gone.
Yeah. Yeah.
That sort of.
I hear that.
I've seen that attitude
Anthony.
in the funeral industry on my counterparts. I've seen how they behave towards people's families, and I said, you know what, I can't let that happen. I want to learn every day how to make something good better. I want to learn every day how I can treat families better and how I can listen to families more and how I can deliver and serve families better. I want to learn that every day, because there's no one size fit all. So I want to be able to be teachable and learnable of how I can make this journey. So that's why when I talk to people, I don't talk about death. I talk about how do you want to celebrate this life.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, that's lovely to hear because that is also a very important thing for people, I think, because sometimes when you do go to, a burial, a funeral, at the graveside is very important. And sometimes, depending on, I'm sure there are people here that can, attest to this. Sometimes you will hear family members are not particularly happy with the, the manner of the, the funeral
service,
director or the service at the graveside. So I totally love to hear what you said there, because yes, it is a harrowing time for a lot of people and their emotions are all over the place. So it's good to hear that the customer service that you give, you know what I mean, is really good.
Anthony, one of the things I wanted to ask you was, in terms of the service, how can you guarantee that when you decide to, retire, that the service that you bring can be carried through? What's the process that you are taking at the moment, or are you taking any processes at the moment to ensure your service continues?
We're working on the website. I just have a brand specialist who I had a meeting with, who is excited of coming on board and making this better. We don't want a website as a novel. We want something that when people go on there, it's straight to the point, and they want to use our services. So we don't want a whole book on there, but it's important that we show people all the various strands of different things. So it's sort of organizing that a little better. So a website is a very important thing. And when people get on there, they don't want to be dazzled or confused. Everything must be precise and very much detailed so they can have a proper understanding. So when they see me after that website, they know exactly what they're getting. I plan to do. Someone is asking which part of Guyana are you from? I was born in Georgetown in Lodge, so I was Lodge, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
I've seen some comments coming. Which part of Guyana are you from?
that's all right. That's okay. It's nice that you actually answer them while we're live doing this, because.
And why I came into the industry, because for my love for people, and my apathy for people. I like caring for people. I think it's important. Everybody wants to feel loved. Everybody wants to feel cared for. Everybody wants to know that someone, it's like if you see some of the pictures I send you, the woman's husband passed away. She holds on to my arm. I'm taking her to, to see his, his coffin, and here she is.
I couldn't, as wonderful as they were, I could not show them because they were private, and
Oh, no,
I
no,
have
you
no
can't show
permission
them.
to,
I do
but
have
it was
permission. I do have
okay. All
permission
right,
to show them.
understood.
That's the reason why I
Yeah.
sent them to you. The family given me
Okay.
permission to do that. But it was, is, when when I sit in the home and I say to a woman who's been in this country, worked so hard, and now, after the marriage of 50 years and the husband is gone now, and she sits down there and she said, Mr. Lyken, you're going to take care of us. I said, you got my word. My word is my bond. I will take care of you
Yeah.
guys. And in the end, she said, oh my God, you came
Mhm.
through. You did took care of us. And, are you going to come back and see us? I said, of course. I'm going to come back
Yeah.
and see you and have dinner with you. And you feel that,
No.
you feel, to me, it's just a
Yeah.
family. It's more
Yeah.
of a family,
That's
you know
it.
what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I like to eat a lot, so I'll go get my food.
Well,
That's
now,
it.
now you've got your brochure. Are you updating the brochure? Because when I went through it, it's very extensive, so it's
Yes,
really good.
it is going to be updated. We're working on it right now as we speak. So within a month's
Okay.
time, hopefully it should be ready. There's a few things that needs to be changed in it, but yes, I
Can
try
I
to make.
show what I've got so far? Because it's really good for people to understand that this business has been going for a while, and what Anthony has done, he's provided a service so detailed as to what they do. Yeah, that oops, so let me just put it back up there, right? And it's so deep. I mean, that picture alone tells you the tranquility, the peace of mind that they're thinking of how you will receive that information. So that was just one of the things that just really impressed me
That that
because
picture that picture represents a great sense of spiritual journey, and water is very important, and greenery is very important. And for me,
Yeah.
it's that peace and tranquility it brings. You go by the water and you sit down and you watch the fountain flowing. And for me, it's just like the memories that when someone leave, the memories still continue to flow. All the good times still continue to flow that you have with that person.
absolutely,
But that is exactly what it represents. And
yes.
yeah, that's what it represents. I can't say no more.
And when I saw it, I was just taken aback. I was like, okay, that's the picture. It makes absolute sense, So, I really do thank you. Now, we normally have a question that I think you already answered it in a sense. I would say to you, what do you want your legacy to be?
He was a very controversial man, and he cared for people.
Good. You
Um,
know something? And
my
one
legacy,
thing
my legacy
yes,
is
sir.
that a lot of the young males that I mentored, um, they've grown up now, grown men, my sons. They can turn around and say, Coach Lyken, very tough man, but because most people call me Coach Lyken from the mentoring side of things, very tough man, but he was a man who cared for people immensely and stand up and fight for people immensely. And I think it's important, like I said, it doesn't matter your color of your skin. Um, what matters is that the relationship that I develop, those relationships is worth more than money. You know, the business can close down. Um, I can go bankrupt, but relationships is what lasts for a very long time. So my
Amen.
legacy is about the relationships that I leave behind, those people who I've impacted their lives. And the ones I made mistakes with, I'm able, grown enough to say I'm sorry and
Mm.
able to do better the next time around. So that's where it should be.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Can I just add that with what you said there, one of the things that you probably didn't know, we met in a school in uh, Heathcote,
Yeah,
Heathcote School. Yeah, you you were doing some drilling with some of our young people,
yeah,
and I said,
yeah,
you know what, this man knows because you had their full attention immediately.
of course.
And it was some of the more difficult young people. So,
Yeah,
I just realized when you said you'd done the mentoring of young people and you're from the army, I said, that's the man. That's the one who I didn't see as much because I wanted to get in touch with you to see how
mm,
we can work together. But
yeah,
you know what? Life throws curves, and what you've done and how you've done what you've done, it's a prime example because I don't think many people have actually spoken to a funeral director, right? Because we're all afraid of the conversation. And I love the way that you framed it with your experience so that it becomes something for people to receive. And, you know, remember, people, you've got his number. Get in touch with the gentleman, because it's not only what happens here, but he can also do things for you in the islands, yeah, to represent your family in the right way. So, you know.
Can I ask a question? Can we, if somebody said, you know what, I like this guy's business, I like your service, can I don't know, almost prepare or put something in place because with you before I
Right.
die, or you know, or have a preparation. These are the flowers that I want. This is the coffin or casket I want. Can people do that and
Yeah,
leave
so
that
you
either
could
with their
actually
will or with the person that they want to
you
have bury them?
yeah, you can do that in a will, or you can do that with the insurance company. They will ask you the various questions, what you want. Is there a particular funeral director you would like to use? And then you can have, well, yes, I would like to use this, but then you can also put in those little clause in the event anything changes. You know, say for instance, if I go on, transition and I've gone on, there's still someone there to be there for you. So all of
Yeah.
these things can be put into the clause. It's important that you discuss that with the person who you're taking out your policy with. You can have that open policy,
Yeah.
or you can have an open a will that you can put together and say, "This is what I want." This is, I did a funeral
Lovely.
for a friend of mine's mom. She was with another funeral home, but she asked for me to be the director, and I just direct. I just called the funeral home and said, "Look, this is what," and they said, "Okay, we don't have a problem with that." And I direct the funeral. I was the conductor on the day. So these things
Okay.
can happen.
So
It's all about conversations.
Yeah.
So let me ask you, where are you based?
Well, I'm based in Catford and Bromley. We have two mortuaries, one in Catford, and we have the chapel in Bromley that I use. It's under the umbrella of a bigger company, but we all have small independent funeral directors are in there.
Within.
The Greens
Okay.
Carriage Master, but you have all the small independents who are in that bigger company. Yeah.
Okay.
And do you service all
We're
over?
looking at getting a sort of presence on one of the high streets. We're still inquiring about it, but as it's being in the right place at the right time.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
No, it's lovely.
It's
Good
wonderful.
to
Thank
listen
you.
to you, and for you to share the information that you have. As we say every week, have your notepad and pen, because there's certain things that we didn't even know. All right. So thank you very much for sharing that with everybody.
Anytime. Feel
And
free to
we will definitely be in touch, because one of the things we want to make sure is that we're sorted ourselves out. So we'll be talking, because we want to make sure that everybody
let's have dinner
understands.
sometime. Let's have dinner
Indeed.
sometime.
Yes, that sounds
Yeah,
like a
let's have
plan.
dinner. Let's set that up. Give me a private call. Let's have some dinner sometime so we can talk.
Okay,
It's
wonderful.
more than that. For me, it's not about you going anywhere. It's about let's celebrate life now. Let's build that
Yeah.
relationship and celebrate
Amen.
life now.
Amen.
Okay,
Amen.
Exactly.
that's the
Exactly.
inevitable. That's inevitable. But let's celebrate. So it'd be good to come together and we do that.
Lovely. I look
Fantastic.
forward to meeting with you.
I look forward to
And
seeing you again
eating
too.
bread with you, as he said. All
Okay,
right.
sir.
So,
We can do that.
Anthony, thank you
you.
very
Thank you
much
again for your time.
It's been wonderful.
Thank you very much for the
speaking to you.
opportunity. Thank you.
No problem at all. Let's talk later. Take care.
Okay, appreciate you guys.
All right.
Take good care of
Bless
yourself.
Later now.
Take care.
God
Bye
bless.
bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye.
Well, guys, thank you very much for being with us, and I hope that you got some
Yeah, I hope
great
you
information.
you receive some knowledge, because the important thing is, what is life? It is a transition from one to another, and we need to prepare that when things happen, we have the right people around us. Black Business Recommendation is not just about ensuring that we talk about everything related to finance. We have to talk about all those things that are important to our community and how we keep what we have within our community. So this is one gentleman, and I'm sure there'll be more, because what we do, we explore, we find out where people are, and we interview them to let you know about them. So from myself and Lorraine.
Yeah, you take care, guys.
We
Have a
wish you
good
good
week.
night. Have a great week. We'll come back to you on Monday. By the way, Monday, we're going to be moving on to health and fitness. So if anyone would like us to interview them, I've got a few people lined up, but if anyone would like us to interview them, you can get in touch with Hugh at Black Business Recommendation or inquiries at Black Business Recommendation.
.com.
.com.
Keeps forgetting
I keep
to
on
say
forgetting.
it.
Okay, so
right?
it's Hugh at blackbusinessrecommendation.com or inquiries at blackbusinessrecommendation.com.
Okay.
Until we
The
see
month of May, the
it'll
sun is shining.
yeah, so it'll be health and fitness.
Health and fitness.
Yes. All right.
Take care. Have a great week.
And you
Bye,
take care.
everybody.
Blessing.
Bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.